Welcome to City and State TV. I'm Gerson Borrero. We are pleased and fortunate to be joined by Ramón Jiménez, first of all. Simple name, Puerto Rican name, as Puerto Rican as a coquí, Ramón Jiménez. What's interesting about Ramón Jiménez, who I have here with me, is let's start out with the fact that he's an attorney, he's a civil rights activist, he is a writer, prolific at that. Comes from the school of progressive reformer politics that New York City has lost. Real reformers, real progressives of Jack Newfield, a dear friend who also loves boxing. Exactly. We saw some matches with Jack Newfield, but we ain't that old. We're not as old as Jack Newfield was. But the fact is, Ramon, I'm so glad that you could make it here to City and State TV so we can talk about something that I think is dear to your heart, which is the integrity of the Puerto Rican community and some of our institutions. Specifically, I asked you to come in here because I recently read, and I was surprised by, a column by you, an essay about disappointment that you have in what's turned out to be the non-remaking of the Puerto Rican Day Parade Board. And I know you can say it, but you were crucial, along with Lucky Rivera, a great Puerto Rican also leader, and Boricuas for a Positive Image, in getting the New York State Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, to actually investigate the prior Puerto Rican Day Parade Board under the presidency of Marilyn Lugo. Bring us up to date, because you were very supportive. As a matter of fact, I wrote some columns that you weren't pleased with because I was hitting them, because I've been covering them for as long as you've been following them too, for 20 years, and we weren't pleased. Bring me up to date. Has Eric Schneiderman lived up to the commitment that he made in announcing that a year ago, I think it was?
First of all, it's a great honor being with you and chatting with you. We have many old experiences, and I won't use the word old that often, but we do. As you know, about a year and a half ago, Coors Beer put a Puerto Rican flag on a can with the national Puerto Rican emblem. We protested. We got Coors to withdraw this can of beer, and then we realized, wait a minute, who's selling the Puerto Rican Day Parade emblem and the flag to Coors Beer when we have such high alcoholic rates? And we got to the board and we pressured Schneiderman. Schneiderman was pressured to begin a full investigation. Even while investigating, we began a phone campaign of 1,000 calls from all over Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago. And we finally got the old marketing agent ousted. And by the way, Schneiderman's report says, the word is a man who misappropriated $1 million. So we were told that this man would be out of the parade. He would pay $100,000 back to the parade, which we're kind of disappointed.
That was Carlos Velazquez, for the record, who was marketing agent, who was presided over Gallos Corporation, GALOS.
And was the marketing agent for the last 20 years, ever since Ramón Velazquez was no longer active in the parade. So Schneiderman promised us new board members, independent board members, transparency. Carlos Velazquez would be punished. The whole board would be turned around, would be independent. There wouldn't be totally politicized.
He would have to give back some of the money. Is that correct? That I remember.
He was required to give back $100,000. And by the way, Gerson, you know as well as I know, when powerful people take money, they use the word misappropriation.
Right.
When regular people
se lo robó.
Exactly. They robbed it. So that's a fancy word for stealing and robbing.
Right.
Okay. So now we're on the anniversary of Schneiderman's announcement. This last month was the anniversary. It happened last February. The first parade went off pretty well, except for a couple of questions like Council Speaker Mark Viverito was instrumental. Melissa was instrumental in getting the new board members. Schneiderman turned to her for the new board members, and those board members turned around and decided to honor her.
The reason Melissa is tied into this because as city council, as a representative, as a city council person from East Harlem, and part of the Bronx. She actually did partake in the struggle. She was actually very active, and I got to give her credit that she was also opposed to some of the things even before last year and criticizing the board. But she went to the meetings that you guys set up with at Coors in the Bronx distributor, right?
She was
right.
one of the few elected officials that were with her,
Right.
with us. We created a temporary coalition, and she was with us. Now, Schneiderman, in picking the new board members, apparently used Vivarito a lot, and also our favorite lobbying group, Miranda and Ramirez.
That being Roberto Ramirez and Luis Miranda.
Right. And so the new board members, we were promised a whole lot of different things from the new board members. We were promised transparency. We were promised a fair method of picking the scholarships. We were promised more scholarship money because, remember, Elson, in Carlson's last year, only $8,000 was given in scholarships. This is a parade that generates about over $3, $4, $5 million in sponsorships.
And who has a separate activity to raise funds, allegedly, for scholarships for our students.
And he only gave out $8,000. Now the new board takes over. They promise all these things, and as we now look at it, we see the Carlos Velazquez has not paid the $100,000. The board promises transparency in financial statements. All we're getting is the income tax returns, and the income tax returns can hide so many different things. We were promised full financial disclosure. They took a recent trip to Puerto Rico. It won't be reflected.
The new board.
The new board. It won't be reflected.
Well, that's what the old board used to do.
That's what the old board used to do. And they promised us financial statements last September, and we still haven't gotten the financial statements. Then we were told all you're going to get is these, I think it's 990 forms. That's all you're going to get. Carlos Velazquez, no payment. We're also very concerned about the political affiliations of the new board members, because that seems to be a problem. The question is, should one politician control the parade? Should one lobbying group control the parade? Because what that means is that, again, politics is going to be injected. If I support Gerson, I'm going to put him in the front of the parade. If I don't support Michael Johnson, I'm going to put him in the back of the parade. You know, this kind of, using the parade as politics. The parade, to me, just is a national treasure. And there's no institution capable of collecting so much money and actually giving out scholarship money. My position is this parade should give out $1 million in scholarship money. That's my position. Especially with the way tuition is now. What is $8,000 the way tuition is now?
Right. I think that they did, in fairness to the new regime, the new board, that is 30,000, which is still not enough. Right. And I understand your point because they do spend a lot of money. Now, so that we understand, Melissa Vivarito was then city council member. She then became speaker. She then had, as speaker, she helped and was instrumental because Eric Schneiderman called on her. And so that we're clear for our viewers, because for you and I, this is arroz con habichuela. This is rice and beans for us. We eat this. But the fact is that the context is that the New York State Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, has really, through his Charities Bureau, which you met with the head of the Charities Bureau, and also other people, including, I keep mentioning Lucky Rivera from Boricuas for a Positive Image, because he has been instrumental in mobilizing and been very loud and very supportive of the whole effort. As a matter of fact, he and I had differences also at one point because he felt I was being too hard on criticizing what was going on. Having said that, so that we understand, Melissa Vivarito then becomes council speaker. She then is exercising, as I understand it, really a lot of influence. She did exercise a lot of influence. Nothing wrong with helping select the people who are now actually constitute the board, which is kind of dangerous because it's an elected official, very powerful now. And then it's also Eric Schneiderman has ties, with all due respect, but they do have a long-standing relationship. Eric Schneiderman, Roberto Ramirez, and Luis Miranda, going back to Washington Heights. So there is, like, you're saying that is even more obvious now, that influence from Luis Miranda in the process and Roberto?
I'm saying that the people, many people on the board have more loyalties to Vivarito and to the lobbying group than they have to the community, and that's creating a definite conflict and issues. Again, I mean, there's so many different issues, Gerson, in terms of the politicization of the board, in terms of the scholarship money, in terms of the transparency. There's some independent members on the board, by the way. there were a few independent members chosen. And we've heard that those independent members are being harassed.
Well, by the way, I was stunned with the fact that Lorraine Cortez Vasquez, who has really had her own credentials, was selected to be chairing the board when she has direct connections and to both Viverito. Actually, she swore her in one of the many swearings up in the Bronx, and also is tied into the Ramirez. She worked for Ramirez. And she worked for Luis Miranda in terms of, there's a long-standing relationship. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. It's just the appearance. And she's now working for AARP in Washington, a good title, a very prominent person. There seems to be, I know that you wrote to them. I know some things that you didn't know that I know. I know you wrote to the board. Have they responded to that correspondence that you requested some information from them? For example, that they were supposed to change the bylaws. Did they change the bylaws?
They haven't changed the bylaws.
You're kidding me.
They put in 2 new board members at a meeting where there was no prior notification, no interviewing of the 2 new board members. They were just pushed by a few people, including Lorraine, onto the board. And there's nothing. I mean, it's like there's nothing wrong with those 2 people that were added to the board. But the question is the process, the procedure. Carlos Velazquez used to use the old system of cronyism. In other words, you're my boy, so I'm going to put you on the board and you go vote my way all the time. There has to be a more fair procedure for picking our representatives, not because Lorraine has 2 friends, let me put them on. What's the procedure? It should be a fair procedure. And as you know, the new bylaws which they attempted to do were rejected by the Attorney General.
Oh, so they did do the bylaws.
They attempted to, now they're trying to do them again.
But they got 2 attorneys on the board.
They do have 2 attorneys. And
so they couldn't reform.
And one of the attorneys, Ms. Pacheco's a very good attorney.
Carmen Pacheco.
Carmen Pacheco.
And Yuli Martinez.
Right. Well, Yuli's a little young and experienced, but yeah.
All right. So we have no new bylaws after a year.
Right.
And imposed, because there was no community input, and imposed new boards, selected, handpicked. Eventually, I understand the procedure was that Eric Schneiderman actually had to do this. Let me ask you something. There was a scandal with a Jewish organization in which the person had to resign because of some misappropriation of monies. I think it was $4 or $5 million. William Raffogel, that's the name, right?
Shelley Silver's friend.
Shelley Silver's friend. The board wasn't thrown off. It was just the person who actually took the money. Why was it that Eric Schneiderman felt compelled that? That's where, he felt compelled that he had to get rid of the entire board. My question is it fair to then say, is it because there was a political agenda in this side with the people that we've just mentioned to be able to control it, as you suggest? And in that case, he couldn't because in the Jewish organization, they understood each other. I don't get it.
There were very powerful people on the board of that organization. And Eric Schneiderman, you have to understand Eric Schneiderman. Eric Schneiderman someday wants to be governor. And because he someday wants to be governor, he doesn't go after. It's the same thing with Velazquez. How you misappropriate $1 million, you only have to pay $100,000 back, and they're not even going after you for the $100,000? So I think that Schneiderman's political aspirations sometimes interfere with his ability to enforce and change things. I think that his political aspirations is why he doesn't touch Carlos Velazquez. I think that Carlos Velazquez has gotten away with this because Carlos Velazquez honored so many people else, and as you know, during the parade,
right.
He wrote books about Jose Serrano, the congressman. He wrote books about different elected officials. And my feeling is, somebody called Schneiderman and said, "Be easy on Carlos Velazquez. He only misappropriated $1 million. Don't go after the guy." And my friend Lucky Rivera, he always tells me, Lucky says, if someone owed you $100,000, Ramon, wouldn't you be knocking on their door? The parade has done nothing. The board hasn't said, "Where's the money, Schneiderman? Push him. We want that money."
We're talking to Ramón Jiménez here at City and State TV, and it's for those of you following this, what we're talking about, understand that this is a public organization. It is actually registered in New York State as a nonprofit, as a charity, in the Charities Bureau of the State Attorney General. It is a public concern. It may be more so to Puerto Ricans who see this as a great vehicle for our culture, for our music, for our customs and our presence. And it happens once a year on Fifth Avenue. It's an important event. And quite frankly, we're reporting on it. And I invited Ramon because you have the inside of this, and you're one of the people outside. You still want to see some change. And it's in that when we had it with some progressive people, in quotes, like Melissa Marviverito, like Eric Schneiderman, it's almost as bad as it was before. Am I on the right track here? Is it positive to say that there hasn't been that much change? I hear, for example, is it true that I'm hearing that Melissa Marviverito, and we'll invite the speaker here to answer these questions at City and State TV, that she's influencing the board to select Bill de Blasio as the Grand Marshal? That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's accurate or not.
We have also heard from inside from our sources that she's trying to do that, and that's an example of the conflict, Gerson, because you know and I know that Bill de Blasio has been awful on Latino appointments. You know, the stats are there. How can you honor someone who's been disrespectful to your community? Now, de Blasio has done some good things, which I'll agree with or whatever, but you know, diversity and I mean, that's supposed to be the cornerstone of part of his policies, and he has failed Latinos, which is why some Latinos are saying one-term mayor.
He got 87% of the Latino vote in the election, general election, and was supported widely. Also took up the primary vote. Where are we right now? The parade practically has begun its cycle towards the second Sunday of June, which is when the parade is held. There's a week of activities. Where are the activists? Where is Boricuas for a Positive Image? Loki Rivera, who I know is still active, and like you, he's a great Puerto Rican. Where are you with all these other concerns and other people where are you? Have you talked to Eric Schneiderman? Has he returned your calls? Do you have a meeting with him? Are they rendering anything? Is there accountability coming from the Attorney General's office?
Well, the first thing we're doing is letting the public know what's happening. That's why I wrote that article. We intend to shine a light on everything the parade does, because the parade has gotten away with a lot of stuff without any light being shown on it. We're going to shine a light if we need to. And we're seriously thinking, Gerson, I'm glad you asked that question. I told you that during this campaign, we had a phone campaign of 1,000 calls to the Attorney General. We drove Dave Nachman and some of the people crazy with the phone calls.
Sure.
Boricuas from all over. We're thinking of beginning. We thought we could retire, or we could just
enjoy the parade.
Exactly. We're thinking of beginning a campaign to force Schneiderman again, to force Carlos Velazquez to comply. In fact,
why doesn't the board want its money? I mean, Lucky asked the question already.
I have a feeling. Well, remember, some of the people on the board are like Rosanna Rosado, and I have nothing against Rosanna Rosado, but I do believe that she wrote a piece supporting Carlos Velazquez when we were attacking him, defending him, saying we shouldn't be doing this. We were attacking.
Oh, she was still at El Diario, and she did write that, and she wrote in English. But I think at that point she was still publisher or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
but in other words, she was a supporter of Carlos Velazquez, and I think I don't think we're as bad as we were, but I think we're heading in that direction, and we got to, right now, it's very critical, and right now we got to put pressure on Schneiderman, pressure on the board, and we have to support the small group of independent people on the board who are trying to do good.
Okay, so the parade is around the corner. This is just beginning. There seems to be we're on another cycle of the parade coming up and a scandal developing or attention. Has the media in general been attentive to this? I know here at City and State, I am pursuing it. I know that you also wrote this piece and you're going to keep talking about it. Is the Latino media compromised also in terms of reporting this? Because they partake also in are they afraid that they won't get into the line of if they report on it? I'm asking this.
Well, that's a very good question, because basically we got better coverage during our campaign in the New York Times that we got in the diario. The New York Times wrote 2 or 3 big feature pieces. They were with us. Winnie Yu of the New York Times.
Right, that is correct.
And she did some. She gave us covers that the diario did not give us. In fact, the diario didn't cover that campaign at all. So I think there's some conflicting interests.
Well, actually, for full disclosure, I was fired because of a column in which I revealed it wound up being in the New York Post. For full disclosure, and I'm not doing this because of this, but after 20 years at El Diario as a columnist, I was actually fired because, by the way, Erica Gonzalez, who was editor-in-chief, now works for Melissa, making $125,000. So we're putting it all out there. Ramon, we're going to have you back. City and State TV. I'm Gerson Borrero, Ramón Jiménez. Don't stop being a great Boricua, brother.
Thank you, Gerson.
Cuídate. We'll have you back.